In 2017, the United Nations declared 20th May as World Bee Day. And every year on this day since 2018, attention around the world is focused on the importance of understanding the role of bees in the ecosystem and inclusively, socioeconomically. How do we preserve bees and other pollinators such as butterflies, moths, wasps, the beetles, birds, and bats? Not too fond of them, but yes, bats. But today we are focusing on bees. And this year, the theme of World Bee Day is Be Engaged, Build Back Better for Bees. And in the world, there are almost 20,000 different species of bees. And today here in St. Lucia, we will be discussing what bees really mean to us. How do we benefit from bees? And how can we really build a life around bees? To join the discussion, we have with us the National Coordinator of the GEF SGP UNDP, that is Mr. Giles Romulus. And let me just tell you that he's representing the Global Environment Facility Small Grant Program of the United Nations Development Program. Also with us is Ms. Samantha Justin, who is the GEF Operational Focal Point within the Ministry of Sustainable Development. And joining us a little later on is Mr. Richard Matthias. He is from the Iyanola Apiculture Collective, and Mr. John Schalmine, who is from the Orising Brothers. The discussion is also going to require your participation within the next hour. We'll be presenting you with some questions, so that means you need to listen very, very carefully. Take some notes because the questions will be coming, and that is for you to be able to win some prizes. And I'm sure you're going to be very happy with what those prizes are. But we want to start off the conversation with Mr. Giles Romulus and Ms. Samantha Justin. Thank you so much for being with us on this very, very important day. And I encapsulated then World Bee Day. And now oftentimes we do not think about bees. And I think here in St. Lucia, moving around, we do not see bees as we used to see them before. And I can always remember, and I still bear the mark of a bee sting when I was just about probably 10 years old. And from then, I had nothing really to do with bees. Later on in my life, I'm beginning to understand more about this really small animal that can be so aggressive if you're not careful, and the importance of bees to our lives. So, Mr. Romulus, from the GEF standpoint, the International World Bee Day, how important of a observance is this?
Lisa, thank you for welcoming us to NTN Studios. It's an important day like other days in the world. We are trying to highlight the importance of bees in ecosystems and for sustainable food production for medicinal purposes. Those little creatures that we see and we believe that are insignificant are responsible for pollinating something like 95% of the flowering plants in our forests. 95%. And when it comes to agricultural lands, 35% of our agricultural crops in the world are pollinated by bees. So they are important, and they are continuously working to improve the quality of our food and so on. An important aspect about bees is they are an indicator of environmental quality. You know, I tell people when I go out on my many missions, and if they're taking me into a wilderness area, I listen to hear insects. If insects are thriving and you hear bees, it means the quality of the environment is good. If you go anywhere and there's complete silence, and the insects are, you're not hearing them, it suggests that there's something wrong with the environment. So bees are not only helping us with our food security issues, but also as an indicator that is valuable for the research we do in biodiversity and also for sustainable food production.
And we know that World Biodiversity Day actually is
coming up very, very soon. Yes,
of this week actually.
Yes.
So for us here in St. Lucia, let's zero in a bit on the work that Jeff has been doing in St. Lucia regarding bees. For the program, what is the connection between the GEF and the St. Lucia's apiculture
Okay,
industry.
excellent. Let's to say a little bit about the GEF. The GEF is right now the second largest multilateral donor funding agency for sustainable development projects in the world after the Grain Fund. And the GEF was established to implement a number of international conventions. They include climate change, biodiversity convention, land degradation, conventions dealing with chemicals and pollution and international waters. Now, biodiversity will best incorporate bees and the diversity of pollinators that there are around the world. So we have a mandate to protect ecosystems and also to protect those bees that are very valuable in many, many, many ways for food security, etc. Since 2012, when we established the program in St. Lucia, we funded about 14 projects all over St. Lucia, and I can be more specific in a moment. And I was just checking before I came in, it's an investment of about 1.7, 1.8 million Eastern Caribbean dollars in 14 projects. And that has contributed to, in many respects, a resuscitation, a reviving, a renaissance in apiculture in St. Lucia. And we have projects, example, we help revitalize middle floor honey producers, the Orising Brothers, Iyanola Apiculture Collective, the OPCA charcoal producers. Very soon we're going to be opening a solarized processing plant for honey in Grace, and Mr. Shalmine will speak about that. We hope to establish a research institute in St. Lucia to deal with apiculture and the byproducts and the science. Over the next few years, we'll be focusing on integrating the scientific methodology and science into apiculture so that St. Lucia can maximize the benefits from apiculture. And I wish to say, when we speak about bees, we first speak about honey. But honey is a low-hanging fruit. We have to go up the value chain: propolis, beeswax, creams, facial creams, pharmaceuticals for rheumatism, and then the very valuable apitoxin, which one of our projects through IAC, Iyanola Apiculture Collective, is now harvested, and we can export that. You wouldn't believe it, Alyssa, but something like 1 gram of apitoxin is anywhere between 70 and 90 US per gram. And that if we can get our production facilities to the highest standards in St. Lucia, I am of the opinion the apiculture industry will begin to contribute in a more significant way than it has done in the past.
Absolutely. That sounds like very exciting times there ahead for the apiculture industry, which brings me to Ms. Samantha Justin, within the Ministry of Sustainable Development as the GEF operational focal point. For you, what exactly is your role between the ministry and the GEF?
As the GEF operational focal point, I am the first point of contact between national stakeholders, inclusive of the GEF Small Grants Program, and the GEF agencies itself. So what I do, I would oversee more or less the projects that are happening on the ground, which GEF funds. And GEF fund, every 4 years, there is a GEF replenishment. And with that replenishment comes new set of funding, which the GEF Small Grants Program as well as government agencies would receive to undertake activities in focal areas such as climate change, biodiversity, land degradation. You also have international waters, and you have chemicals and waste.
Right. So in specific with the apiculture, how much of a role is the ministry playing in supporting that industry?
I would say that we are very integral in supporting that industry. Currently, with that apiculture project that is going on now, we are involved in terms of establishing the vision, the mission for that project. We are very much involved in it. We are also going to be on the planning committee of that project. As also, I would say that the ministry itself is undertaking a similar project which is funded by the GEF. And that project, a component of that project, also deals with setting up an apiculture initiative in 2 communities in St. Lucia. So you have that alignment between that project as well as the GEF Small Grants Apiculture project.
All right, wonderful. Now, the project for us here in St. Lucia, Mr. Romulus, is to make St. Lucia not just viable, but the leader in the region for apiculture.
Yes.
What is St. Lucia's position? How poised are we for us to be able to attain that leading role in the region?
Excellent. Thank you, Lisa, for that question. As I said, for the last, since 2012, when I returned to St. Lucia from regional program in 2012, and we established the program, we have 14 projects in the field now, or we have had a total of 14 projects, and we have learned a lot of lessons, and also refined our techniques. And different groups have different capacities, and you will notice that when Richard and John comes to the table. And because we have learned so much, we've become even bolder. We're very bold now, and we have gone beyond the boundaries of St. Lucia and designed a multi-country apiculture project that includes Trinidad, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Dominica, St. Kitts, and we have gone across the ocean to Samoa, and we have the South-South project. And one of the objectives of that project, which is in excess of $600,000, is to share lessons learned. It's to share the kinds of techniques we are refining in St. Lucia, and we can share with our brothers and sisters in the Eastern Caribbean. Look at St. Vincent. The recent volcanic eruptions in St. Vincent. Bee populations have been decimated, and they will require an injection of assistance, and we are going to be doing that with some of the project funds that we have in St. Lucia. Very soon we'll be exporting hives, boxes to St. Vincent to help them to resuscitate the apiculture industry down there. So in many respects, the kind of work that John Chalmine and Richard Matthias and all of those people have been doing is to sustain and develop and grow the industry in St. Lucia. And when we set up our research institute in St. Lucia, it will give us that set of international connections and partnerships we require to grow that industry even more. And I'm excited about the linkages, you know, when we start to make candles and we start to make perfumes, you know, Lisa, and pomades and rubs and scrubs and so on. And you know, the world is becoming...
as well in the cosmetic industry.
There you go, there you go. So. You know, the world is becoming more organic now in context of COVID and post-COVID and so on. So if we can produce those many byproducts here, and IAC has been experimenting with a number of them, I think we stand in good stead for the future.
So what, yes, because I was about to ask in terms of how do we get to that point? So we would need to, the training aspect, do we have an idea of how many people we have right now within the industry who on their own perhaps possess certain capabilities that we can enhance? So Samantha, go ahead.
Before I answer your question, I was just about to add to Giles's comments and say that what I have realized since becoming the focal point and taking on that apiculture project that we are undertaking as the Department of Sustainable Development is that there is a growing interest as well. People's attitude that sort of evolved, whereas people only saw the bees just as producing the honey. Now people see the linkage between the bees, the environment, sustainable development, sustainable livelihoods. So in terms of St. Lucia being at the forefront, I think this is helping quite a bit to position St. Lucia to be able to lead the rest of the Caribbean.
Great. So in terms of building the industry now, the components needed within the industry for us to take that role.
Just some statistics here. We started programming in St. Lucia in October of 2012. Our last annual report was in December of 2019. At that point, between October 2012 and December 2019, we had trained about 12,000 St. Lucians in various fields, from climate change to apiculture to sustainable agriculture to pollution monitoring and so on. In the area of apiculture, we have made it one of our core focal areas for the next 3 years, so what we call GEF 7. And we've already put in $150,000 over the next 2 years, and we are hoping to put in as much as $200,000 to $300,000 of investment. And the idea is to grow that industry in such a way. And that is why we believe that the apiculture, what we call ALI, the Apiculture Research and Learning Institute, is so important and will be established hopefully in Vieux-Fort. We're not sure precisely where yet. We still have to discuss it, possibly in one of our Ramsar sites. As you know, we have 2 Ramsar sites in St Lucia, the Marcotte Mangrove and the Savans Bay area, international sites of recognition. And we're hoping that we can grow these areas, build capacity, get ladies, women involved in that. You know, women are frightened of stings, but Richard will tell you they have done the DNA typing of our bees. There are bees that are stingless, that are very valuable, and they're the bees we discover have extremely high pharmaceutical value, particularly based on the forage that they partake in. So the apiculture industry, we have not even developed it to half of where it should be. And we need to invest in it, and we need to grow it from within. And most importantly, we should control and manage the factors of production associated with it, and not allow other persons to come in and take it from our mouths, from our faces, from our doorsteps, so to speak. So controlling it and building our capacity is something that we believe in, and we must learn the lessons of the banana industry and so on. So now this is in its formative stages of development. Let us come up with a plan, let us invest in it, and let us get our country in the forefront. And that is why we see that vision of St Lucia, because of the work we've done, emerging as the pioneer in the Eastern Caribbean.
So, Judge, do we have the capacity
to
be able to be that leader, in order to produce? Because we know that the demand for honey, for example, is so high. It far exceeds, the demand far exceeds what the supply is. So in terms of, can St Lucia go it alone in that respect?
No,
or do you see yes, go ahead.
St Lucia will not go it alone, but St Lucia will catalyze processes. And because we are ahead in terms of the number of projects we have implemented and the lessons learned. In fact, I got a call from one of the largest landowners in St Lucia on the East Coast, saying he's wishing to list the land to one of our projects to increase honey production, more boxes, more honey boxes, more, and so on, and to employ young people. So as Samantha was saying, people are beginning to recognize the value of the apiculture industry far beyond just honey, but other byproducts as well. Do we have capacity? We're not at the level we should be, but we are growing and we invested in it. And for example, IAC, we have a project with them, and they are training people almost every other weekend. At VG, we have an area where IAC is training people, both men and women. Up in Debarra, IAC is training the people at Debarra as well. We have in Vieux-Fort as well. So it's a slow process that has been augmented by a new cohort of trained people almost every month or so. So I believe it is growing, Lisa. We're not there yet, and we will continue to invest in it for the next 4 years at least.
I just wanted to add as well, in addition to what Jazz is saying, that it's about building partnerships and collaborations as well. So whereas you probably before you would have had small nooks of individual bee harvesters, and right now the trend, the way we are going is we are doing it, civil society is involved, government agencies are involved, even the private sector is involved. So when you approach it sort of that integrated approach, you find that there is a lot more that you can do together. The capacity, it's easier to build the capacity, it's easier to upscale the activities that you're undertaking.
And how do we do that sort of public sensitization? Because, you know, we want people to understand the value of the bees and what it really means and what it can mean to their own livelihood and sustainability. So how do we begin to tailor that sort of message to people, and what are the avenues and means by which the GEF as well as the ministry is doing so?
I can talk to what we've done. One of our very first projects in St Lucia was with a group of cultural artists in St Lucia, and they were able to design 4 videos on bees animation. They use the animation methodology to help sensitize. I think it's been shown on some of the television stations from time to time. It's on YouTube. We're doing a lot of interviews like we do here. Richard and John are always on television talking about apiculture. We hope to begin to produce more newsletters for the reading public and more videos and so on. But important to us, Lisa, is the integration of the research component. We cannot, we cannot stymie. We can't stay where we are. We have to discover the many other uses that can be made to, say, the honey or the apitoxins and so on. So that is why research is going to be an area we're going to focus on, and we're going to use the full gamut of social media and also the mass media and so on. And we hope this program today is also going to contribute to that.
All right. Samantha?
Yes, I was just to add as well that the involvement of people, communities. So the more you have people and communities, especially vulnerable communities, the less fortunate, involved in the undertakings, you get more of a sense of ownership. People feel like they belong, they feel like they can make a significant contribution, and you acknowledge those contributions that people make, and you don't try to go it alone. I think it will set a pace for better and bigger things to happen in the apiculture industry.
And I know, Jazz, you spoke about the DNA typing for bees here in St. Lucia, but we also, what are some of the technologies that are being used at this point, and do we have it readily available here, and how are we sourcing it?
Yeah, we have some, perhaps the best laboratory now for apiculture is at in the Cedars area by Richard Matthias's property, where he has all the different technologies. You have everything from microscopes to test tubes to drying machines, all kinds of things like that. Richard will be in a better position to speak about those that equipment with you. We can order the equipment. We've been ordering. He's just received a very sophisticated machine for St. Lucia to use in the processing of honey, because one of the issues with honey is the moisture content. You have to keep it below around 15% moisture content. Anything higher messes up the honey, it causes it to spoil, and so on. So we are importing the technology that we need, and we're adapting it to the context in St. Lucia and so on.
We due for a break, but the final question I'll have as we go to break, the establishment of a tourism and apitourism sites. That sounds very, very exciting. So how far are we along with plans for that?
We are there. In fact, the first cruise ship passenger tour in apitourism will take place this August. And it will start at VG, where the IAC has a center for training and also for apitourism. And visitors will be able to see the bees, partake of the honey, enjoy edible byproducts, even put on the suits and so on, and get a beautiful, facilitated tour on the various aspects of apitourism and so on. There are also, Slovenia in Eastern Europe is one of the most advanced countries in apiculture, and we've heard about bees helping people to sleep. Insomnia is a chronic issue in the world now, and one can perhaps see spending a weekend in a bee area or bee cabin where the bees are beneath the flooring. The buzz of the bees, the melody of the buzzing apparently has a net positive impact on the human brain and increases sleeping and so on. So a lot of research needs to be done, and that is one of our weaknesses in the Caribbean. We tend not to do the research. We allow other persons to do it and get ahead of us. We are going to stop that, and we're going to promote research in a scientific way so we can use the findings and integrate it into the industry so it becomes better, it evolves, and the benefits can accrue to St. Lucians at all levels.
All right, and we'll be talking to those individuals who are directly involved in the apiculture industry, those who are on the ground.
Indeed.
We'll be speaking with Richard Matthias and John Schalmine after this break. Stay with us. This is International World Bee Day, the panel discussion there. Don't forget that later on in the program, you'll be asked to call in or on the Facebook platform just to answer a few questions so that you can win some wonderful bee-related prizes. Stay with us. I'm Lisa Joseph. We'll be back after the break.
What's in the food you're eating? Do you really even know? All the chemicals and hormones used to accelerate their growth. all the artificial flavoring, sweeteners and colors too. We consume and we don't spare a thought for the damage that they'll do. No, think about the children. Think about the children. How will we save them? Chemicals and GMOs are not the solution. Use organic and join revolution.
Excessive agrochemical use, additives, and genetically modified foods are harmful to health and the environment. Join the good food revolution. Grow, buy, and consume organic. A message from Rise St Lucia and the Ministry of Sustainable Development with funding from the GEF Small Grants Program UNDP.
The good food revolution.
She's been watching, waiting, wondering when the sands of time will give way to a tide of change, and for yesterday and today to become a new tomorrow, for a time when her sun can kiss the cheeks of your loved one and her stars can twinkle in her honeymoon skies, when her earthly embrace will reassure and calm your soul, and her unique view can change your whole perspective. Proudly, she has risen to meet new challenges and to provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores. For her hopes and dreams still stand shoulder to shoulder, a precious reminder of experiences yet to come. So, wherever your moments and memories take you, let her sense of adventure set you free. She is Saint Lucia. Let her inspire you.
We can win this war. Get vaccinated. We're taking our life back. Get vaccinated, we know what to do. Get vaccinated, COVID-19 we won't lose to you. Oh no, take 2 doses, take our life back. Time for a brand new day. Take 2 doses, take our life back. To live and work and play. Take 2 doses, take our life back. The health experts we trust. Take 2 doses, take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Let's take our life back with a safe and effective AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. The mobile vaccination drive is coming to you. Visit the Ministry of Health and Wellness and Bureau of Health Education Facebook pages for more information. Let's take our life back. Vaccinate for you, for yours, for us.
Get vaccinated.
This message is brought to you by the Bureau of Health Education of the Ministry of Health and Wellness and this station.
Welcome back to our live discussion here at the studios of the National Television Network, NTN, along GIS. I am Lisa Joseph, and it is International World Bee Day, May 20, and we are discussing St. Lucia's apiculture industry. We are now joined by Mr. Richard Matthias, who is with the Iyanola Apiculture Collective. Trying to get that off the top of my head, as well as Mr. John Charlemagne, who is with Orising Brothers. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. And of course, in our wide screenshot there, you could see some products deriving there of honey. And a little later on, we will be just posing about 2 questions so that you can win yourself some of that delicious organic honey product there. Let's start with Mr. Matthias. For the APC, you've been doing a lot of work, and we heard from Mr. Romulus just a little while ago that we are moving quite heavily into establishing a sort of research institute, and I know that you are one quite founded in the science when it comes to the apiculture industry. So I'm very curious as to how St. Lucia can better position itself. When I was having that discussion with Mr. Romulus, and we can pick it up from there. In terms of the technologies that we really need to allow us to develop that vibrant apiculture industry that is going to be competitive, what do we need in order for us to be able to get there? And how far along do we have to come? Have we begun taking those steps?
Yes, well, good afternoon, everybody, and happy World Bee Day to everybody here and the viewers on the internet and in TV land. We've done a lot of work in St Lucia in the Caribbean towards realizing the goal of having an effective industry. The key to it is understanding the needs of our bees, understanding what the ailments are that they suffer from. Education and research is one of the key aspects of it. We need to partner with agencies across the world that may have equipment and technology that we may not have available to us. And through the Alari Institute that GEF SGP is developing and creating, it will form a conduit where we can have international researchers to work alongside our local beekeepers and to help us to better understand the science of what is actually happening within our hives. One of the key things in the Caribbean, and not just St Lucia, is that we have a very good understanding of the craft, but we have not been able to master the science behind apiculture. And I think once we get a full grasp of the science, we'll be able to step forward to the next level. And then you start to be able to look at different products other than honey, which are much more valuable, and you can it takes some of the pressure off the bees, so that there's not this demand to provide this resource for resale to generate a livelihood. There are other byproducts you can derive from the hive which are just as valuable and even more, which can even give you a better livelihood and be less stressful on your bees.
Let's talk about some of those byproducts. We were just saying that the sort of the beauty and health industry now is zeroing in quite a bit on the honey. We also have the propolis that that we derive from that.
You have a tube of propolis there.
Okay, so give us some more information about these and how the bees are really going far beyond their buzzing.
Well, you first have to have an understanding of the complexity of the organism of a bee or a colony of bees. And bees do not have an adaptive immune system. So unlike humans, where we do have an adaptive immune system, if we get sick with something, we leave markers in our blood so that we are better able to respond to that in the future, where bees do not have that ability. So what they feed on, the forage, the plants, the trees, that they collect the nectar, they collect the propolis from, become part of their immune system, and this is how they help to protect themselves. So if we, as persons in the Caribbean, we know a lot of medicinal plants and trees and shrubs that we use to make our own little remedies when we feel sick. Well, the bees are basically doing that on a continual basis. And the more abundant you can put these kind of medicinal trees and plants available for your bees, your finished products or the products you can get will be higher value or more rich with these products. So, for example, propolis, traditionally in the 1800s and 1900s, was a base ingredient for cough syrups. So they used to use propolis as a base element for most of your cough syrups, and you can even make tinctures now with it. You could either dissolve it in alcohol, or you can dissolve it in oil, and you could use it to apply it for different things. We've got a small jar of royal jelly. Royal jelly has been long believed to have medicinal purposes that can help persons. The propolis is also good for infertility in women. So one of the things that we're doing with that is to help to put in capsules. And through our GEF grant, we've recently purchased an ifrophilizer, where we'll be able to freeze dry these products, crush it into powder form, and then put it in little tablets, and you could to utilize it. Similarly with the royal jelly, we can run it through the isopropylizer, freeze dry it, put it into little capsules, give it a longer lifespan, and that could help with other medicinal things for persons, and especially if you've got the right plants and vegetation and shrubs out there, it will enrich the quality, the antioxidant value of these products. So if you've got a very high source of antioxidant trees and shrubbery around you, it will increase the value of your products, even your honey, because it has greater antioxidant properties inside of it. So this is we need to do research along these lines, and then to encourage persons to plant trees and forage that will enhance this environment that we want. So if you can create a very rich environment of trees that have medicinal value, our bees in turn will feed off the nectar of these trees or collect propolis resin from these trees, and that will also turn back in return, increase the productivity and the health of our bees, but also the value of the products that they produce, which we can extract.
You know, a little later on we'll talk about that, how individuals can play their role in being able to increase the bee population and just to be able to sustain that. So we'll get back to that in a moment. Let's get to Mr. John Schalmine of Orising Brothers. Good afternoon, son. You'll give us an idea. The Orising Brothers, who are they? Give us a little insight into your organization.
Well, good evening. Orising Brothers, myself, started in the 2001 in the south of the island. That's Viewfort, Grace Viewfort. And well, I basically come from a beekeeping family. In Castres, in central of Castres, that's Laclery. And I move along back in the countryside. I spend some time with the family. The family still live in Castres. But I moved back to the countryside, and that's where I developed the beekeeping as my main livelihood. Well, now, we would say like before, beekeeping wasn't really recognized. It was recognized just as a bushman. Well, being in the bush, you extracted the honey, you maintain the family livelihood as you are the beekeeper. But as science developed, alongside with Ministry of Agriculture, it came to better understanding the livelihood of being a beekeeper and sustaining the family in production. Because my people used to, Maccabees, better known as Maccabees, Les Flores from Laclery. He was one of the beekeepers I used to supply Elwin, Emancy, drugstores, and Continual. That was for the livelihood, as maintaining the family. And then I took it up from there as the family.
So for you, as you mentioned, you've been doing it for quite some time, perhaps all of your life.
Yes.
How would you compare your production before and say between the last 10 years?
Yes, that's a very good question. Well, on production, we all time maintain production level, but to our imported goods like frames, foundation, in keeping the industry lively, because at one time myself already produced 11 drums of honey just between 2001 to 2012. 11 drums of honey from 2001 and beyond. So in understanding, basically in St. Lucia, our production level in the bee industry is production. Because presently, today, we were about to do some extraction, and because it was a very call as World Bee Day, that's why I make myself available here. But from starting 3 weeks back, production have touched to 200 gallons already, and continuing. But our main our main focus on the beekeeping industry in St. Lucia is production and to educate our farmers in what we have noticed. We have noticed our own farmers, we spoil the environment more by a lot of chemical and to develop in the country in housing and other infrastructure, bringing down our nectar source to production level.
And that is a very critical point that John has raised there, Richard, because
yes,
we know that as we modernize and we want to be able to make way for commerce and housing, we're doing a lot of clearing of lands, and that certainly is having a very, very debilitating effect on our bee population.
Yes, it does have a very devastating effect. And so much so, I think we're in the middle of the swarming season currently, and I think between this week I've had at least 5 or 6 calls for the removal of swarms in different places, from the ports to people's homes in different parts of the country. So human interaction with bees are starting to overlap because, you know, they're running out of space and places to live. So it's very important that we now, as beekeepers, and try to inform and educate the public as to, you know, if you've got a beehive in your home, don't go and take a tin of Bragon out and spray it. Try to reach out to the Ministry of Agriculture, or go online and search for beekeepers in St. Lucia. You must find at least half a dozen or a dozen or more beekeepers listed online, and call somebody in to help to remove the colony of bees rather than destroying it. So it's very important because of the overlapping in places where people live traditionally, and now where bees have always existed in these forested areas. So there is some overlap that's happening, and it's important that we address them in a environmentally conscious way, as opposed to just, well, the bees are there and let's just destroy them. Reach out, call a beekeeper, and they will safely remove the bees from you, and if you're lucky, you might get a couple of bottles of honey in the process.
All right, we're going to take another break, but when we come back, I want to discuss the exporting of our products, discuss the whole DNA typing that we're getting ourselves involved in. And so we're discussing International World Bee Day and how it is affecting, impacting for the better your life. Stay with us, we'll be back with the discussion.
Saint Lucia ka registre vermine corona ek I ka fait mouvement ek en chay vitesse tan chaque canef ka kouye pour vigilance publique la fait wolo parler en place publique kon bol en main base ti boutique changer distance sociale 6 pieds Rodyon à l'autre. I ka travail tan, si ou senti ko pa cordial, quarantine ko, pas en contact et puis l'autre, en cas où te toi pe exposé. C'est un écouye, free 11 ou ben n'importe clinique yo pou. Les pays a dimi à clé, ça veut dire les supermarkets, pharmacies et puis ATM, yo accessible avant c'était souhait. Pays à clé en plein, ça veut dire tout bagay fermé à 24 heures. Servi protocole comme sorti par bureau indication santé. Nous tout ensemble, ça sauve vermine corona. Si nous tous servi Jidla à toutes les.
Together let us win this war. Saint Lucia be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
And welcome back to our live discussion here on International World Bee Day. We're just doing some little switching of the seats there as we welcome back the National Coordinator for the GEF SGP UNDP, Mr. Jazz Romulus. Before I went to break, I was discussing with Richard, and we were talking, and asked about. I know that part of what we are doing is also looking for markets, so new markets that we can penetrate. So for us, and Judge, you can chime in there as well. Notice that for the program, for our apiculture industry, we're looking at, there was some testing, quality testing done in a French laboratory, and which has kind of, I would think, certified St. Lucia honey for export to France and the EU. Talk to us a little bit more about that. How did that happen, and how close are we, if we have begun this exports?
Okay.
Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah. All right. So, firstly, we sent lab honey to the Farm Institute in Martinique for analysis, and it came up all positive with regards to any no negative elements such as pesticides or heavy or antibiotics and so forth. All the things that the European Union, the regulatory bodies are looking for. So the next step for us as a St. Lucia or the Ministry of Agriculture is to establish what we call a residual monitoring plan agreement between the European Union and United Kingdom as to the entry of food-based products into their territory. So this is something that there are a number of different agencies working actively within the government agencies to try to make this a reality. You've got Export St. Lucia that I know is working on that. They're spearheading the charge in that regards, into ensuring that the country can do that. The Bureau of Standards are assisting in that way in creating a honey standard so that beekeepers can now begin to conform to the requirements that are required for entry into these markets, such as record keeping and keeping relevant records and so forth as to the status of your products. Mr. Ramos.
Yes, so this is something we support, part of, as I said earlier in the program, the integration of science into our beekeeping industry. We need to do this if this industry has to grow and evolve, and part of the work when we invested in the project through the IAC, it was to test the honey and to determine that it meets international standards, and we have recommendations to the government of St. Lucia in setting up the residual monitoring system. But in another project with the Japanese people, they were all, Richard and his group was also able to do the DNA typing.
Yeah, we wing analysis.
Speak about that as well?
Sure, yes. We partnered with an agency out of France, Apinov, Dr. Benjamin Poirot, and they took samples of bees from St. Lucia, and we tested it in one of the top French laboratories in Paris, and they gave us some data as to regards to the existence of different species of bees in St. Lucia. And just from a random sample from a number of apiaries on the island. So the results were very interesting in that we established that we have some small encroachment of Africanized bees in St. Lucia, the Apiculture line. So it's about maybe 24% of the population of bees would be the Apiculture line, the very defensive Africanized line. But around about 50 to 49% of the samples that were analyzed were pure Apis mellifera lines, which is a nice, more gentler bees. And in the mixture between the two, you would have a hybrid of the two species. So it's important that as beekeepers that we're aware of this information and that we are able to so that you can have a better understanding. Sometimes you wonder why your bees tend to swarm so much, because they are have a higher particular trait of one species than another. So you may want to encourage breeding from the more docile calmer bee so that you can expect better honey yields, because they're not going to swarm as much on you. So it's important that as a bee we have to start to incorporate the science even down to a species level so that we can get the best results that we require.
All right, so let's just tell to our audience, remember I told you at the top of the program that your participation will be very much required, and of course it's going to be to your absolute advantage. You can call us here at 468-2162, that's 468-2162, to answer two very simple questions that we have. And also for those of you on Facebook, you can, the first person to answer the question, will definitely be making the prize available to you as well. So either you can call in or you can post the answer. So the first question is, what does GEF SGP UNDP stand for? I repeat, what does GEF SGP UNDP stand for? So let's see the first person who can answer that question. So for those of you who are pondering that one, also we want to know, what temperature did the SIDS countries fight for at the Paris talks? Remember that? COP21, right? So what temperature did the small island developing states SIDS fight for at the Paris talks when they were discussing climate change? So you have all a few minutes there for you to, well, very well. We have on the Facebook platform the answer there. Not quite. We're still missing the UNDP aspect of it. We have Macy Yang answering there, the Global Environmental Facility Small Grant Program. I think we can give that to Macy. What do you think about that, Giles? Yes?
Let her go for the other one. No, I will hesitate.
You would hesitate?
Yeah, okay, so try again.
So, okay, Macy, try again, because we really want to get the UNDP in there as well. Yes. Okay, so keep trying, and very well, Macy says United Nations Development Program. So thank you so much, Macy Yang there. So it is the Global Environmental Facility Small Grant Program, United Nations Development Program. So Macy, to collect her prize, how does Macy collect her prize?
I guess she should come to the studio to collect a bottle of honey.
She can come right here to the studios of the GIS. You'll be leaving that there. So tell Macy what she's won.
She's won a bottle of honey.
A bottle of very, very much so, Macy, organic, the best on the market, the honey that there is. So you can always pick that up here at the studios of the Government Information Service. The office is located at Iyanola House. That's Point Seraphim, Santos area there. And we are that yellow building, which is on top of the VG Sports Complex. Just trying to be very, very specific so that you can find it. All you need to do is come with a proper identification so that we can give your wonderful honey off to you. And so we still have the second question outstanding. No, Macy, you can't win again. But what temperature did the SIDS countries fight for at the Paris talks? Those climate change talks, remember that they all came in unity. We had so many jingles prepared and so forth. What is the temperature? That's a good question. Very well. On Facebook, another one there, got it right off the bat. Nesta Philip, thank you so much. 1.5 degrees Celsius. 1.5.
Orising brothers.
That's right, to stay alive. So Nesta Philip has gotten that. Thank you so much. So Nesta, and looks like we are having someone calling in, and I think, Giles, we may have to ask another question in order for us to give off something else. Let's see who's on the line.
Hello.
Thanks for calling in. Good afternoon to you. I think we should be making that connection shortly.
Hello.
Caller, go ahead so that we can engage you.
Yeah, the answer to the second question is 1.5 degrees.
Yes, 1.5 degrees. So, Giles, you want to...
Yeah, we'll give him a bottle.
We will give him. What's your name?
Cletus Alexander.
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Cletus Alexander.
Okay, Cletus Alexander. Okay, wonderful.
You want to get something else again?
Cletus Alexander, thank you so much. You've won yourself a bottle of that delicious honey there.
Thank you.
And then just perhaps one more question.
One more question, no problem. We have another one.
Let's see if our solutions know their country. We have 2 Ramsar sites in St Lucia. These are international wetland sites. Name one of them.
Makote mangrove in Beaufort. The Makote mangrove in Beaufort.
Did he say
you said the Makote mangrove?
It's the same person. It's the same person. Let's somebody
it's the same. Oh, Cletus, we can't have you answering that question as well. Sorry about that.
Let's see if anybody's online.
But Cletus, when you come in here, can you just come with proper identification so that we can hand your prize over to you?
My prize.
Oh, you want to give? You asking for Richard to hold on to it?
I have his number, so I can call him for the prize.
Oh, okay. Okay, so he's going to call you directly for his prize. That's what he's saying, Richard.
Oh, no problem.
So yes, he knows how to think. And
all right.
we also, Macy Yang apparently. Thank you so much, Cletus. Thank you so much. Let's see if we can get someone else to win.
Bye.
So we do have, just to let you know, Giles, that Macy Yang is saying that if she can we hand her prize over to someone else. So apparently Macy may not be in St. Lucia.
Oh, I see. Okay, so
or maybe perhaps Macy's in quarantine. We don't know.
There you go. She's in quarantine. She's been a good lady. She's a good girl.
You want another question or what?
So let's ask another question so that we can hand that prize over.
So let's ask the same question because other than the Makote mangrove, name another Ramsar site in St Lucia.
Yes.
Other than the Makote mangrove in Beaufort, name the second Ramsar site in St Lucia.
Let's see who can get that quite quickly in our remaining moments. And so we want to know, other than the Makote mangrove site in St. Lucia, can you give us another Ramsar site here? Okay, so let's see if we'll be able to get someone to answer that. The number is 468-2162. That's 468-2162. And you could also post that thing on Facebook. You can do so, and we'll be happy to give you a prize. So in our remaining moments, just before you close off, Giles, I wanted to ask John, are you seeing very young people showing interest in wanting to get into apiculture? Because you started off very young, you've been a lifetime in there. For your organization, how many young people are you seeing gravitating towards apicultural beekeeping?
We do. I should say my most congratulations since I became a family of GEF. GEF has put us on the world map in the apiculture industry in St. Lucia. So I have to give GEF all the congratulations as a St. Lucian. Now we do programs in the school. We mentor. We do from St. Mary's College to the secondary schools on island, and it's through the GEF family that make the schools and other government and Ministry of Agriculture recognize us, Orising Brothers, as a GEF family. But as a livelihood, you find most of the mentoring we do with other projects like SSDF and training the students. When they give them a start off, like we mentor them in the beekeeping, we give them the hives to start off. Usually a direct income doesn't come. And that's where the frustration comes with the younger people.
Because that turnover is not as quickly as they would expect.
So it
really does require you to keep
most of the young people now that will want to come in the beekeeping industry is like, they say, honey have money and bees have money. But at the same time, they would rather it like a hand-to-mouth. A hand-to-mouth work. Because for instance, my co-workers, in the operational, like when extraction, I pay them their wages. But again, you'll find after that, they will still want other work in that sector, which like cleaning of the frames, boiling of the wax, and that's finance. So when starting with the young people now, in coming in the beekeeping industry, the finance doesn't come to them direct.
But it doesn't mean that along, as you begin to steep yourself and you are going to get there. It just doesn't happen instantaneously.
Yes.
We do have someone answering that question, Giles, online. Thank you so much to Shemstom D. Prince. He's given the correct answer there, Savant B. So he's answered that. So thank you so much there, Mr. Prince, Gemstone D. Prince. If you can come to our studios here at the GIS NTN, and once again, we are at the Iyanola House building. That is a Point Seraphin St Lucia area there, just above the VG Sports Complex. You come in with proper identification. We'll be happy to hand you over your prize. So thank you so much there for that. And Giles, as we close off, for the GEF in St. Lucia, you've seen many successes, lots of strides being made, changes that have taken place in individual lives and organizations that have flourished out of the work of the GEF since coming to St. Lucia. So if you could just contextualize for us the GEF, and as well if you want to say some parting words on its involvement with the apiculture industry as well.
Indeed, I'm surprised that my good friend, Mr. Shalmain, didn't mention his soon-to-be-open solarized processing plant in Grace. You know, he's going to have, he and his group, they're going to have a fully solarized processing plant in the south of the island, in the hills of Grace, and we hope very soon it was going to be opened, and of course the government of St. Lucia will participate, I presume, in the opening ceremony and so on. Another important first for us would be the first apitourism tour coming up in August, and that is going to be led by Richards and his group. So we'll have visitors coming to St. Lucia for authentic experiences based on our apiculture industry, and we want to grow that. And also important to us is the investment in the research and the science aspect and building international partnerships. As I said, we are going to continue to invest in the apiculture industry in St. Lucia. We want to see it grow, both in terms of the human resource skills there, but also in terms of the quantum of production at different levels and the export of the products. I also want to see the future of St. Lucia and small island developing states is really understanding the science and doing the research so we can develop. We should no longer be content to just stay at primary production level, which is what happened to us in the banana industry. We should not allow that. We should go up that value chain and start to develop and exploit the resources, the direct and indirect resources. We also believe that apiculture and today's day is an opportunity to get us thinking more organically as well. And I brought Lisa this booklet to the studio. It's a booklet on organic fertilizer and pesticides, developed research by St. Lucians and funded by ourselves. The SLHT joined us, the St. Lucia Hotel and Hospitality Industry joined us in printing this document. It's pictorial, it has a lot of photos in there on how to produce organic fertilizers and pesticides so the quality of your food can be improved and we can get less correlation of cancers and so on and so on. This was produced by the Bellevue Farmers Cooperative out of Choiseul, and they sell it at 40 EC dollars retail. And believe me, the information that's in there is worth more than $40. And they really need the funding, so I'm asking solutions to call them the Bellevue Cooperative. You can also get copies from our office in St. Lucia at 40 EC. Every household should have one of that because you can actually do the farming in your backyard. Today, this is Auspicious Day declared by FAO, the UN organization. We hope next year we will have another activity associated with it, but I think we as solutions have to know, well, not only solutions, but human beings have to understand that we live in a biosphere with animals and plants, and we have to know we're not the only ones there, and our actions should not in any way compromise the survival of those species. And that's the important thing. Bees are under attack. because of pesticides, because of deforestation, because of the kinds of agricultural methods, the concretizing of our rural areas by urban sprawl and so on. All of those things are affecting. Let us begin to learn more from nature. And in fact, there's a growing branch of science now called biomimicry, meaning you learn from nature principles that can be integrated into our design of settlements, our design of our houses, our design of our workplaces. And if we do that, I think it is going to all go much better from us. In fact, there are design courses now in biomimicry at places like University of Arizona and so on, which we're trying to develop a partnership with. So thank you very much, NTN, for observing that day with us. Thank you, John, and thank you, Richard, and the Ministry of Sustainable Development, Samantha. We look forward to more partnerships of this kind in the future.
And we're looking forward to that. I want to give 20 seconds to Richard, because Richard, I did say, what can we do as individuals to ensure that we are keeping a safe environment for the bees? So quickly, what can I do as an individual?
Well, today is World Bee Day, so I would suggest you run down to the Union Agricultural Center and pick up a nice flowering tree and plant it in your yard, and pay it forward for the bees of the future. This is the best thing you could do right now. The trees that our bees enjoy today are trees and shrubs that somebody planted years before. So pay it forward, go to the Union Agricultural Center, buy a tree, a nice flowering tree, and plant it, so that in the future you will have this nice luscious tree that's providing flowers for your bees, but also it's also helping with the climate change situation and absorbing these dangerous greenhouse gases and so forth that are affecting the planet. So that's my advice to you.
Thank you so much, and I will be doing just that and encouraging all of St. Lucia to do just that. We've been discussing the apiculture in St. Lucia on this International World Bee Day, and just to remind you that the theme is Be Engaged, Build Back Better for Bees. And don't forget that the bees, not just their buzzing, but also it is very important to our food security, and it can ensure us some good livelihoods as well. I am Lisa Joseph. Thank you so much for watching.
Yay.